All right, we are here with Spring Valley Vineyards featuring Head Winemaker Serge Laville and Katie Derby, assistant winemaker, and then Tabitha Crenshaw, the tasting room manager. And we're just going to walk through a couple wines and geek out a little bit with the Spring Valley Vineyard wine team and share a little bit about the family history. So why don't everybody just pour a little bit of the Viognier in their glass. And we'll get going. Well, thank you for joining us. Alrighty, so here today, what we're going to be tasting is the Spring Valley Viognier from Walla Walla Valley, followed by the Spring Valley Catherine's Cab Franc, also from Walla Walla Valley. And then to follow it up, we'll end with the Uriah Red from Walla Walla Valley. And we have a few little photos to share, so I'm just going to share screen, which bear with me here. And we'll get going. Righty. Well, so one of the wines we're going to taste today, actually at the end of the tasting program, is the Uriah. And the Uriah is named after one of the very first descendants of Spring Valley. And many viewers may not realize this, but the vineyards actually started off as a wheat farm. And that was back in the late 1800s. And Tabitha, can we tap you to perhaps just share a touch about the family history while we swirl our wine?
Yeah, absolutely. So Uriah was the founder of Spring Valley Vineyards, and also the flagship wine that really put Spring Valley Vineyards on the map. And Serge will talk about that a little bit. Since we do have a family member actually present, I would think I'll throw it to Kate and see if she wants to talk a little bit more about her great grandfather.
Yeah, absolutely. I can just really quick touch on our family history and the wheat farming and stuff. So Uriah started farming out there in the late 1800s, and but before we had the entire piece of that we have right now, he had about 2,000 to 3,000 acres, and he actually lost that in the Great Depression. And so after he recovered from that, he kept a little bit, and then he was able to get a loan from the bank to get the what we call Spring Valley right now. So land's been in my family. I'm the sixth generation, and my grandfather, Dean Derby, was wondering, like, this has been in the family for so many generations. What else can we add to this to keep it going? So my grandkids are not going to want to sell this place. And so it was actually my grandfather who decided to add grapes to it, to the property. And only reason we were able to do that is because we did have water and we had water rights. And so we planted 2 acres of Merlot to see if it would grow, and it did. And the rest kind of history. We can touch on the rest as we go through the wines and talk about the vineyards and everything.
Absolutely. So it does sound like, aside from Walla Walla, there was a little opportunity for Seattle to hold a special place in your heart. And I'd love to chat a little bit about that. It sounds like your grandparents, Shady Corcoran and then Dean Derby, both attended the University of Washington, and Dean was quite the football player. Did they end up meeting at the university, or did they know each other beforehand?
Yeah, no, they actually met in 6th grade here in Walla Walla, and they, high school sweethearts. It's like the perfect little love story. They homecoming king and queen together, and everything. I mean, you look at it, it's just everything fell in place with them, and they met in 6th grade. So Papa had grown up here in Walla Walla as well. This is my grandma's side of the family, and football did take them to Seattle, and he absolutely loved it. I actually was just reading through I was going through some boxes that we have, and I found a letter from the University of Washington to my grandpa, like encouraging him to go there to play football instead of going to WSU, because they just listed like the coaches, we will treat you well, like just encouraging him to go that way instead. And he eventually chose University of Washington, and they enjoyed Seattle. They loved it. They are still season ticket holders for up there at those games, and it's neat, and it's always been a part of the story and who they are.
I was gonna say I've definitely bumped into him there with his with Dean with his wide rimmed hat. So. Oh
yes, yeah, we were up
pretty
there.
Typical.
Yeah, we were up there for a homecoming game about 2 years ago, I think.
That's when,
pouring the wine and stuff, and he always enjoys it. He enjoys going back up there and spending time watching football, and just thinking about the memories that he and Grandma had.
Sure. And then Serge, how did you join up with this family all the way from France?
Well, I was so it was in May 2000. I was visiting America, not only the West Coast, but mostly the East Coast. Little bit, the Midwest, and then I went came on the West Coast, from basically San Francisco to Seattle, and I did little stop in Walla Walla for a week, because actually I knew. You say, why Walla Walla? I said, really? Nobody knows Walla Walla in France, I tell you. But I have a friend who was living in Walla Walla this time. He no longer lives here, now he's back in California, but he spent about 10 years in Walla Walla, and that was just when I was visiting. So, and that was, for me, I tell you, it was kind of very eye-opening to go from all those big cities that usually the tourism is mostly in the big city, or the park, or the Grand Canyon, but to end up in this little small town, really, then okay, I got it. Now I understand what is to be an American in a rural area. And actually, I really like it. I was like, this is a great place to live. And
you called it Pleasantville.
I call it Pleasantville, yes. But I had no intention to stay. To be honest, until 2 days before I went back to France, I actually met my future wife in Walla Walla. So it took us about 2 years to get married, but the reason I came back almost right away, a few weeks later, is because it's a love story.
There seems to be several love stories within Spring Valley here, which I think is just fabulous. Because Kate, to your point, just with the family going through so much with the Great Depression, and then we've got 3 different love stories here. It's fabulous. But perhaps without further ado, we should not keep the viewers waiting and actually drink a little wine. So this is the Viognier, and I know you folks really put yourselves on the map with the red wines. When did the Viognier come about that we're enjoying? Or perhaps why?
Yeah.
Well, there was definitely, I mean, Spring Valley is red wine. It's going to be, well, the focus is going to be red wine all the time. So Viognier came, I think, in 2008. It was 2008 when we planted Viognier? 2010, sorry. 2010. Okay. Yeah. So mostly we planted half an acre of Viognier in 2010, and that was mostly to do some experimentation on co-fermentation of Syrah and Viognier. So it was to blend this Viognier under the label 9 Ali at this time. And we planted, I tell you, only half an acre. That's not that much. Half an acre, that's 1.5 tons, 2 tons of fruit per year. It's nothing. But mostly it was planted for this co-fermentation, which is very old tradition in the northern Rhone of France, in the Rhone region, to co-ferment Viognier and Syrah. Usually, we're talking, 90% Syrah, or 90 to 95% Syrah, and maybe 5% Viognier. So they are not blended after fermentation. They're actually co-fermented together. You harvest the Viognier and the Syrah the same day, and you co-ferment that. So that was the reason. Now there was still I must say it was okay behind this idea to maybe you know, make a small amount of white wine and see if we like it or not. And we came with our first Viognier, I think, in 2014, 14 maybe. I think the label.
We may have thought, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. 16.
But
Anyway, that became a club wine. People like it, you know, it's direct sale only. Then after that, we planted in 2013 a full acre, an additional full acre of Viognier. So now we not only can co-ferment, but we can come every year with a couple hundred cases of Viognier. And of course, we learn, you know, I mean, to be honest, we are definitely red winemakers. We are not, we don't have a lot of history of white winemaking. We don't have the equipment. We don't have the tool to make a large quantity of wine. So this Viognier is made basically. It's actually beautiful. We harvest the fruit, the Viognier, when it's ideal, you know, picking flavor, and then we destem, we remove the stem, we press. And sometimes actually we press right away, and the juice actually goes in a stainless steel tank and is left here until it starts fermenting by itself. Usually it takes about 1 or 2 days and then start to ferment. Then we never add anything. We don't have to add any yeast. The native yeast just make it, and actually make it so it's actually sometimes so too efficient, meaning we have to cool down the fermentation so it doesn't go too fast.
Do you still just have that one press, that very old, lovely press?
Yes.
Not many people will get the pleasure to see this thing, but it really is incredible. I thought I had a photo, but I don't. But.
they could come out and see it.
Everything is, all the red wine are pressed in this 2-ton basket press. I mean, it's a stainless steel. It's not wood anymore because it's very hard to keep it clean, but it's still the same. We still use the same technique, which is a vertical basket press. And all the red wine are pressed actually in this press. Actually, for the rosé and white, we have another press, which is a bladder press, because it's very hard to press sweet juice, you know, in a basket press. It doesn't work. It just slips between, because the sugar is very slippery, so it doesn't work. So we have a bladder press only for white and rosé.
So with this lovely Viognier, just because it does have a lot of that wonderful body and just a bit more complexity, what sorts of foods would you like to see this go with? I would say seafood just right off the bat, but is there anything kind of creative that you would suggest with this wine as well, or what are you thinking?
Viognier ideal pairing is goat cheese. Yeah. Goat cheese, bread, or you know, like savory bread, or you know, something little fatty on a very good goat cheese. It can be or any cheese, but not too strong, of course. That's ideal for the Viognier. You know.
Tabitha, what are you thinking?
Yeah, we're big fans of
pairing our wines with cheese. And actually, for Valentine's Day, we're running a whole pairing with American farmhouse cheeses with a lineup of our wines. So everybody can kind of get a chance to see what Serge is talking about.
That's fabulous.
Flavor profiles. And we open with the goat cheese.
Yeah, it is also fun. This is kind of backtracking a little bit, but with the Viognier, it's fun to have this as part of like our, the dinners and stuff that we can do now, instead of be bringing in a different white from somewhere else. It's nice to have the whole lineup be Spring Valley and showcase something that that we're proud of. And we've worked a while on it and learned a lot.
But that's true. Before that, we had so many winemaker dinner on the chef wants a white, and so we have to come with another winery white, and which is okay, but we need to do our own. So actually, the first, I think the first time we make Viognier, it was even not it was not so. It was only for those kind of events, only for winemaker dinner, stuff like that.
Well, I'm
So-
grateful that you had that Viognier for sure, because it's,
No, we
it's
love it. We
delightful
love
to
it.
start with.
And it's, so it's aged in oak, and but the oak is, there is no new oak basically. This egg is aged in punch on 500-liter barrel, big barrel, very hard to work with, I tell you. Very heavy, hard on my back. But so big pension barrel, but no new oak. But still, you have a tiny bit of oak flavor in this wine. Not overwhelming, but just enough to give the wine some a little bit of viscosity and a little bit of body too.
Definitely. The body, we've noticed that about
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on to the Catherines then. Thank you for the walk down the Viognier. I'm so happy that we were able to snag some bottles from you folks. So the Catherines Cab Franc in particular, I'm so pleased that we have the Catherines, and then we've also got the Uriah to share. And speaking of love stories, correct me if I'm wrong, but these two wines represent the founders of the Spring Valley Vineyards, just with all the hardship that Uriah had gone through, again, to Kate's point, with just the depression and then a rough year, and along comes Lady Catherine here, and that story is so meaningful. Just, Kate, if you could expand upon it while we're sipping, that'd be great.
Absolutely, and not to add more heartache into it, but Uriah was married before Catherine to a woman named Ida May, and she passed away during childbirth, and so Uriah had 2 children that lived with Ida May, and he's running a farm, trying to figure this out, and Uriah's sister was actually married to Catherine's brother, and they were here in the valley. And so Catherine came over from Wales to meet Uriah, and as the story goes, from what I've been told, she came over from Wales, and she came over alone. She didn't go with anybody, and that to me is a testament to her strength and confidence in who she is or was as a woman. Came over and met Uriah, and the last train stop was in Prescott, which is about like 10 miles from where the vineyard is right now. And that's, in the middle of August, 100 and some degrees. And like my grandma used to say, the dust is 4 feet thick. And it's like, you can just imagine what she was thinking. And what did I get myself into? What am I doing? But she ended up staying and marrying Uriah, and they had 4 boys. And one of them was Frederick, who is another, we're not tasting that today, but that's another label. So it's a tribute to all the hard work. I mean, farming today is still very difficult work. It's not easy, but you think back when you didn't have the motorized tractors, you didn't have all that stuff, and think back to that and how fortunate I am and how blessed I am today to be able to be sitting here talking about the wines that we make off of our land, the land that my great-great-grandparents, homesteaded and worked so hard at for what we have able to have today.
Well, and I love this photo here, just where you can see the homestead, and it says that you've got 111 acres planted to vine, but do you own the property surrounding this area? It looks like wheat.
Yeah, we do. So most of what you can see is what we own, but actually, as you're looking at this picture, if you go to the right, which is actually east, we own quite a ways that way as well.
That's amazing.
So we don't own back this way, but to the east, and you can see pretty much all of it. And then you can see the winery, but the house and stuff is right there too. You can't see the original house that was built, but no, it's pretty amazing looking back on pictures too, to what it was when they were out there, and reading stories and stuff, and then picturing what it is today, and kind of locating those places where those stories and memories took place. and it just, for me, it, you know, digs my roots deeper
Absolutely.
into that area.
So as we're diving into the Catherine Cab Franc and just thinking of tasting notes and how the wine was made and just all of the intricacies of Cab Franc and having it be just standing on its own. It is 100%. Is it 100% Cab Franc?
It's 100.
That's
It's 100%. And
It's
I'll let
amazing.
Serge talk here too, but we will tell you up front that Cabernet Franc at Spring Valley is extremely special.
Mm.
And probably, I mean, it's our strongest varietal that we have.
Yeah, it's definitely the varietal which every year, I mean, we are very happy with the quality, and even on those very challenging harvests like 2011 very cold or 2015 very hot, we always end up with some really high quality Cabernet Franc. The tannin are always beautiful. I mean, it's always the big surprise. Like, we always try to do the best we can, but it's harder on the Merlot on a very hot year, or Cabernet Sauvignon on a very cold year. It's like, but Cab Franc can handle actually, very drastic either hot or cold harvest. So, and maybe it's Spring Valley, we don't know, because a lot of people say Cab Franc, no, I'm going to plant a few acres because, it's too painful. And usually it doesn't taste good. so I'm like, what, really? So we're very blessed by the Cab Franc. And so Dean was the first, one of the first to plant Cabernet Franc in Walla Walla. I mean, there was already probably a few vineyards already with a few acres, but he planted 4 acres in 95, I think.
Dean was one of the first people to plant Cab Franc in Walla Walla.
They were not the first, but we now have probably, one of the vineyards was one third of Cabernet Franc in the vineyard. Yeah. I think we're the only one. But we have 4 acres planted in 1995. We call that our old block. This is the best. Usually end up in the Uriah. Mm-hmm. And then we have 4 acres planted in 2001. Same thing, beautiful, I mean, it's 20 years old this year, actually. And then we have about 22 acres planted in 2007. And, the vineyards are already 13 years old. Some are really good, and they're all different. But Cab Franc is doing very well. The success of Spring Valley is definitely, estate vineyard, Merlot, mostly at this time. But I think the Cabernet Franc, the Uriah success, the first vintage, 65% or 60% Merlot, 35 Cab Franc, 5% Petit Verdot. Right on. I think they've just made it right from the beginning, and it was unusual to have to see on the label at this time 35% Cabernet Franc. Usually it was 5, 10. David was not shy. Okay, let's go for it. That's what I have. I do it.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is when we relate to, and this might be better as a segue when we go to the Uriah, but we'll just leave it here. Like Serge said, Uriah always has a large amount of Cab Franc in it. Mm-hmm. And Uriah was our flagship wine. So we started with, but behind every successful man is an awesome woman. And so that it's the backbone of it, and it really is. I mean, Uriah, the success of Uriah, this might be my own little limb, but wouldn't come from just the Merlot. I mean, it's that, it's that marriage that happens between the two and makes it what it is.
That's fabulous. No, they really are a pair. It's a pleasure to drink them side by side. As far as just tasting notes and some pairing suggestions, what do we think with the Catherines? There's just, obviously Cab Franc just has a lot of wonderful herbaceous, foresty flavors. What are you?
The Cab Franc is, there's some fruit, but not only that, there's a lot of herbal characteristic. This particular one has a lot of flower smell, rose petal almost, you know, it smells like spring, you know, smell like spring in the garden. I mean, there is a lot. So that's what make this wine so interesting and so complex. It's not just fruit, you know, it's all those flowery and herbal elements that actually should be in a good Cabernet Franc. And should, you know, you have some almost, you have a little bit of greenness in this wine, which is, you know, that's what Cabernet Franc and even Cabernet Sauvignon are supposed to taste like, you know.
Right.
Now nobody wants that anymore, and everybody push harvest very late, so it's only, you know, it's fruit and big and jammy. But hey, if you lose of this herbal element, for me, you miss the point, you know, especially with those varietal Cabernet. So we definitely try to respect the varietal characteristic of what we have in the vineyard, and you know, all wine are made with I don't know how to say that. We are very minimalist, and we try to show the terroir. We want the wine to be complex. You know, we definitely take a little bit of risk harvesting earlier than most of the winemaker, but it pays. And at the same time, we have our style. This is what we like. It's not just fruit, and it's not just jammy fruit. It's on oak. It's no, actually, we don't use a lot of oak. We use oak, but not a lot of new oak. And yeah, so Cab Franc, you know, if you love Cab Franc, you need to taste Cab Franc from the best place in the world, including Spring Valley, of course.
Obvious.
But then you understand, you know, the French Cabernet Franc from the Loire Valley, or some Cab Franc from Italy, and then you can see they're all different. They're all interesting, especially the high-end Cabernet Franc. And we are a very high-end Cabernet Franc at $60 a bottle, I think. But it's one of my favorite varietal. I have a lot of Loire Valley in my cellar, and I think Spring Valley is
Right up there with them.
yeah, it is.
You'll stick around, Serge. You'll stay.
No, it is. So for the pairing, Cabernet Franc pair with so many things. You know, it can be a meat dish, it can be fish, it can be charcuterie, cheese.
Cheese seems to be the theme here.
Yeah. Simple food. I'm not going to say it's a simple wine. It's more a traditional wine, and traditional food. Same thing. Don't go crazy on the spice. You will kill the wine. Just make something simple. Barbecue, even pizza. Simple. Yeah.
The kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty great lead up with talking about just the estate and the expectation of what you're going to get when you're tasting Spring Valley wines. Because with the Uriah, if we move on to that lovely wine, you guys made the dynamic decision in the early 2000s to be exclusively estate fruit, and the Uriah, if I'm understanding correctly, seems to be the wine that like pushed that envelope forward of just dynamically deciding to use estate fruit exclusively. What was the catalyst for that, just as we pour ourselves the Uriah?
Yeah, that would be a very good idea. You can pour that.
Found a decanter.
Okay, so
The inaugural vintage was 2000, right? Did I get
1999.
1999.
Actually, so really quick backstory is when we planted the vineyards, we were just going to plant them to sell the grapes, right? Because we knew there were other wineries in Walla Walla, and we were farmers, so we knew how to grow something, or we hoped we did. And 1993 is when we planted the first few acres, and then, like Serge was saying, we added some, and so we were selling the grapes, and everyone we were selling to was getting very high acclaim. And they kept coming back and saying, it's your vineyard. your vineyard's amazing, it's special. And so we were like, huh. And this might take you back to preschool, like, you know, you're supposed to share, but sometimes you just don't want to. And so, you know, it just doesn't work out. And so we decided, you know, look, hey, maybe we should try making wine and keep all of our grapes and not just make this a vineyard, but make it a whole production and put our family members on the labels to pay tribute to them. And so that's really how it started. And I guess I would say the Uriah kind of just happened and fell into place because of the varieties that we had planted originally.
Yeah.
And the first vintage was 1999. I think it got like 93 points or something. That's awesome. And then the second vintage, 2000, got like 94 points and was 17th in top 100 wines of the world. And we're like, okay, that like
we're doing something right.
Okay. We're doing something right. And this honestly, like, probably goes back to what Serge was saying. The vineyard, it starts in the vineyard. There's only so much we as winemakers can do to manipulate the grape. And fortunately, we don't really have to do anything to manipulate that grape because we have such an amazing vineyard. Our vineyard team, Carlos and his crew, Carlos and his brother, Ricardo and Romero, they've been here for over 25 years working with us. And I think
we should have had them do some sort of cameo.
Yes. Yeah, right. Come in, guys. No, and I, you know, and that's really kind of the success in the story, and being able to be 100% estate, we love, because it really, we can hone in on picking decisions, you know, the day of, really. It's like, oh, well, we're probably gonna pick that, but oh, this seems ready. Let's do a little bit of that and then this. And so you can really, really pay attention to those things.
And that's the only way actually you can make wine with minimum additive and just make the wine, you know, almost ferment naturally, or you really limit your additive to your must. Is it's all about have your own vineyard and picking at the right maturity. If you pick early, it's going to ferment. It's not going to be very good. You know, if it's too green, you know, like we said about, you know, wine characteristic. But if it's perfect on the bricks, meaning the level of sugar is not too high, everything is going to be okay. The big problem nowadays is if you have 25 bricks, 26 bricks, or 27, 25% of sugar in your must, good luck to ferment without modern additive.
Can you explain what bricks are for the viewers?
What, sorry?
Can you explain what bricks are?
So bricks is a measurement of sugar level. It's almost, we'll talk about percent. It's just basically 30 years ago, people were harvesting red grapes at 22, 23 bricks. People now with modern winemaking harvest grapes between 27 and 30 bricks. I mean, we've heard some 32 bricks in 2015 from different person too. We are still, we harvest our fruit basically when it's ready. It's not a question of bricks. When it's ready with hopefully the minimum bricks, so we can just have those grapes ferment naturally.
Absolutely.
And everything is going to be fine. And then it's going to finish, it's going to be dry, and then I'm on fire. You know, I mean, but if you harvest your grapes at high level of sugar, you need to bring some tool. You need to bring some additive that, you know, that to make sure everything is going to go dry.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we like to do. We like to go dry, slow. And we like to go malolactic fermentation, which is a second fermentation, very slow. Actually, right now, I was today listening to a few barrels. We have about 50% of our wine finished with malolactic fermentation. Mm-hmm. The rest is not. It's already February 4th today. I'm okay. It's okay. It's all good. It's all good. It's fine. I mean, We had some vintage finishing malolactic fermentation in March, May.
Wow.
April. I mean,
What is the blend of the Uriah? We don't need the percentages, but the blend. I believe we mentioned it briefly.
Yeah.
This year is different than.
oh, this year.
The way it varies, and honestly, we don't, when we're blending, when we do our blendings and we sit down to make the Uriah or to, taste through, we don't look exactly at percentages. And so it does change vintage. So, but in general, it's always some Merlot and Cab Franc.
Okay.
And then it depends on the year what percentage of each of those it is, and it honestly is just by taste that those percentages work out. But there's sometimes Petit Verdot in it. There's sometimes Malbec in it. There's Merlot, Cab Franc would be the two dominant, and sometimes Cab Franc is more than the Merlot.
And with this wine, what do you recommend pairing it with, since there is that lovely blending of a couple really powerhouse grapes that meld so well together? What would you recommend pairing with?
It's definitely, it's a bigger wine. It's not that big, but it's more, it's a wine to pair. Sorry if you are vegetarian, but mostly meat. I mean, pair lovely with pork, barbecue, or I
feel like
this
it's barbecue on the brain. You've said that now a couple times.
I remember. It's real story. I pair the 99 Uriah, the first. When Devin asked me to make a dinner, it was actually a dinner in downtown Walla Walla, and he asked me, what should we do? I said, you should make some pork tenderloin on the. So I made some pork tenderloin with a creamy sauce and chanterelle, and this. You need some meat. Not same thing. Not too strong. Not too spicy. Ideally, you want some mushroom. Some nice complex mushroom. Not the one from Safeway. Sorry. But chanterelle or morels, and with the like mustard cream sauce, and then boom, that's perfect.
All
right,
so know this, but Serge used to be a chef too, so you can see he gets a little excited about food.
Well, with the cheese reference, and it comes out. Just we're starting to run out of time, and I want to be respectful of everyone on the call. But Tabitha, we tasted 3 wines, and there are several others available.
So many more.
There really are. So, folks, I apologize at the beginning. I didn't mention I am with Chateau Ste. Michelle. We work with and carry these wines. We partner with them. However, aside from going down to Woodinville, Washington, Tabitha, can folks still come and visit you guys in Walla Walla, or what's the tasting room?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 great locations to taste Spring Valley wine in Walla Walla. You can come right down to our historic old downtown here, where we have a beautiful 3-story tasting room. We are actually currently open 7 days a week.
Awesome.
Right now we're doing outdoor seating, but we're looking forward to opening our doors very soon. And then we also open the ranch during the summer season, and we actually can go out there and be part of the vineyard and the rolling wheat fields, and have a very unique experience out there as well. So
wonderful.
we love, really to understand Spring Valley is to come here and experience Walla Walla, experience the beauty, the sunshine. Sorry, Seattle. But we welcome you all to come.
Yeah,
You'll get to taste it.
honestly, just going to the ranch, I'm sorry, can you remind us how far out from Walla Walla is the actual ranch, is actual Spring Valley?
Actually, it's only 12 miles.
Oh,
I will warn you. Yeah, so that reaction makes my comment will make sense because of your reaction. The first time you go out there, it will seem like forever. And that you're like, yeah, right, I'm on the wrong road. I don't have self-service. Where am I going? Where are they taking me? Am I going to end up in an alley? You never know. So but you will get there eventually, and there's no buildings to be like, okay, I'm passing that now. It's just you're driving through the field, and then all of a sudden you will come to the beautiful oasis that we call home.
It is a beautiful drive. Though.
It is.
It is an oasis. I've been there once, and that amazing. Is it just a natural water spring where you've got all those beautiful trees right around?
Yeah, the garden. Yeah,
Absolutely stunning.
Beautiful road. I probably rode this road 5,000 times, and it's almost different.
You're like, it's 12 minutes, it feels like 3. Well, just to wrap this up, and I'm going to come over and share a different, or stop sharing the screen so people can see you all here. But again, just to kind of wrap this up, I really appreciate your time. And if there is something that we can leave viewers with representing Spring Valley, is there a message you'd like to share and just leave everyone with?
From my perspective, and I'll let Serge and Tabitha talk. My perspective, I think we hit on a lot of them, but it's my family. Like, it's a working ranch still, and we still do farm the wheat. And this crop the vineyards are on the property to make it so more generations. This land will be in the family for more generation. It's a tribute to them, to the people we have on the labels for keeping it through very difficult years. And I think the style of winemaking that we have pays tribute to what farming is as well, and letting the crop grow as it is, and minimal intervention, and really giving thanks to the land and the roots that I was blessed with, and that the family I'm able to have, not blood, but everyone here is a family, and Carlos and his crew, that for me, that perspective, the state vineyard and the roots that we have so strong here in the Wallowa Valley. Serge, what would you say?
Well, I mean, you are the customer, so you have to answer the question. There's no need to be expert in wine. I mean, you become expert in wine. It takes a long time, but I started to drink wine before I made wine. And actually it helped. That's it. But mostly, we are here. We are very transparent. If you have any question, if you want to visit, if you want to come visit, please do. And send things through our website, or any question you want to know. Or we are here to tell you the truth. I mean, there's no secret. We are not hiding any secret or any. Basically, having a vineyard, trying to do the best wine we can from our grapes. It's not, winemaking is not technology. There's no, don't believe in those things where you see the winemaker in a white, with a microphone in his lab doing his thing. This is BS. Sorry.
We saw that photo of you doing punch down, so you weren't wearing a bow tie.
No. But the winemaker in his lab doing his experiment. I tell you, we don't do that. Now, what we do, we go in the vineyard, and we communicate with this vineyard. We have a feeling. We see what's going on, and if something is wrong, we say, well, why those leaves are yellow here? Something is wrong, If our approach to winemaking is simple, but at the same time, it's precise, and we are very disciplined. It's not like, oh, well, whatever. No, it's not. That's wrong. It's make it simple, but do the right thing. Basically, it's all about testing. We don't test that often, but at the same time, we know what we have. It's hard to explain, but winemaking is the relation between human and nature. So nature is a vineyard, and it's all about that. And then the grape comes, and do your best. I want you to forget those, lab stuff. Or we don't have a lab at Spring Valley. It's not. We like to know how the composition of our wine, eventually through a contractor lab, eventually it helps. But that's not how you make great wine. I don't think so. You make great wine only if you have your estate vineyard and you're in contact with this vineyard. And of course, not only that, the people, the team, the people who work with you, you know, the equipment, everything, you know, and trying. I'm too long now. Like, you know, trying basically to make your wine with same thing, with the same people, with the same team, with the same equipment. Each time you bring a new tool, what you have to learn this tool. It doesn't, and it's, you know, it's you don't change everything like that. It's a bad idea in the wine business. So anyway,
no, I appreciate that. It's good to hear.
Actually, we beg for visitors because
we love it. We love especially after 2020.
Seriously. No, and that's why this is so important. It's so good to hear about the people behind the bottle. Tabitha, can you push the screen down just a little bit so everyone can see the other SKUs? Because those are amazing.
There you go. Perfect. Yep.
Yeah, and then Tabitha, if you want to close us out with any final thoughts, and I love that the visitor center is open in Walla Walla. That's wonderful. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you too.
Yeah, I mean, these two summarized it so well, but they're also being a little humble with their own skills. I think it's like a good chef as well. You're only as good as the ingredients that you purchase, but you also need to know, like, and respect those ingredients. And they really know, like I said, their vineyard so well, when that right sweet spot to pick, and that's a gift to know that, to be able to have that. So, and it reflects in the wine. So I want to give them a shout out because they're always so humble.
We're all very passionate about this, and I don't know, I feel like the word passionate is thrown around a lot, but it's just real, you know, and we're just people and doing stuff we love with a team that we love, and I think it shows in the wines, and I hope everybody and the viewers and everybody feel that and see it too, and take it for our words, because our words are true.
Well, I definitely appreciate that message. I know the viewers will as well, and can't wait to see you all in person and sip wine at the Oasis on the Spring Valley Ranch, or come down and visit Tabitha at that beautiful new facility in old downtown Walla Walla. And from our house and tasting room to yours, we'll sign off and enjoy the rest of your wines.
Cheers.
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 Good call.
Yeah, why not?